talking about this a lot more in the 9 o'clock hour here, but very interested to see, to hear your take. What happened yesterday?
Well, the president at times gave some contradictory or seemingly contradictory statements. He felt like when he pulled out of the Paris agreement, he felt like it was bad for the United States, and it was a raw deal. At times, even saying that the rest of the world created the Paris Agreement not for environmental reasons, but to try and hobble the United States economically. The seemingly contradictory arguments were that he felt like the Paris Agreement didn't do enough for the environment, but he was going to be pulling out of the agreement that basically every other nation, with the exception of Syria and Nicaragua, has signed on to. It was something that was met with universal condemnation outside of the United States, though it certainly was something that resonated very positively with President Trump's base.
Was there disagreement within the White House and his advisors as to whether or not this should be the course of the United States?
Absolutely, and I think that goes to just how controversial this decision really was. Within the White House, among his advisors, there was a lot of lobbying on both sides, and ultimately the president decided that what he wanted to do was send a political message that he was going to follow through with his campaign promises and do that because, remember, this was a non-binding agreement. In many ways, he could have just not done parts of it that he felt like were detrimental to the United States. There would have been nothing other than perhaps some political finger wagging that would come with that. But he wanted to make the point that he intended to pull out of this agreement as something that was promised on the campaign trail and then performed in the White House.
Other than saying he kept a promise, what has he done for the United States by doing this?
Well, he's potentially given the United States a big black eye. If you look at the international papers today, if you look at the response of world leaders, it is remarkable how upset and angered some of them are, and others are rushing to fill the leadership vacuum that they say that the United States has created. What President Trump definitively did was send a message to the rest of the world that he was going to be focused on the United States and not make America a global leader, that wasn't his primary intention as president. And again, that's consistent with what he said out on the campaign trail and in his inauguration speech. But that's really a difference in the United States foreign policy going back to World War I and the decision to actually become the world leader and become a force for democracy and stewardship of so many of the American goals abroad. President Trump's actions, at least today, are being perceived as a change in those generations of American policy.
You know, Len, I can see all of the bad that comes from this: the world condemnation, the lack of leadership, kind of a lack of responsibility as it comes to the earth and how we treat it. But is there anything that the president can point to that leaving a voluntary pact is going to do for the United States? What's the benefit?
Well, his argument is that it benefits United States workers, it benefits us economically. The major talking point that was distributed to Republican lawmakers in advance of the announcement said that, pointed at the deficit, saying that President Obama had pledged to give money towards this fund, towards this environmental
$3 billion.
effort.
That's
exactly.
nothing.
Well, President Trump disagrees. He thinks that that's too much.
True. The numbers that the president pointed to, is there any discussion as to the validity of those numbers? I've read a lot where maybe people are questioning his numbers as to job loss and cost and so forth.
It wouldn't be the first time that President Trump's numbers have been questioned, yes. There are a lot of business leaders who felt like this was not the best economic policy, and fundamentally that was what President Trump said fueled his decision. What he felt was best for the United States in terms of dollars and cents, and so That fundamental premise is one that is also being contested by industry leaders. So many of them saying that if you want to fix if you want to improve trade deficits, if you want to get other countries buying more American goods, you have to get on board with what the rest of the world is doing in terms of energy efficiency. Because if there are higher standards for vehicles in other nations, and we're still producing vehicles that only suit the United States, Syria, and Nicaragua, our manufacturing is going to be hampered by that.
Before I let you go, any news as to what the White House has planned for the weekend?
Well, one of the big things that they just did overnight was fight more on the travel ban. So overnight they filed some emergency paperwork with the Supreme Court, asking them to overturn the decisions of the two lower courts on their travel ban. So they're going to be working on that. And we also know that the president is going to be signing some bills today, and we've asked the White House what those bills might be, but we don't know. So that remains a mystery. We'll be watching that as well.
And do you get to go to Mar-a-Lago for the weekend?
I am not a member there.
Oh. Okay.
I'm not sure what the membership dues are, how much it is, but basically if it's beyond the YMCA pool, I'm probably not a member.
Well, you enjoy your weekend anyway. Lana Zak, ABC News
Thank
correspondent from the White House, reaction to the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Accord. Thank you so much, Lana. It is 6:27. That's